2.
Digital phone.
Are we on?
Huh?
Are we on?
Oh, no. Hi, everybody. Are we on? Want to come sit here?
Oh, are you saying hello? Are we on? Yes, we are. Are we? Oh, okay, we are.
Okay.
We are. Hi.
I hear chirping like birds. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Barbara's Bookstores in Chicago. We are live. And I'm here with the incomparable, the one and only Anna Gomez, who's got the sunset of Chicago drifting behind her as we speak.
Same old. And I'm here with Kristoffer. Hi.
Hi.
Happy release day.
Happy release day. This is kind of amazing. We have Nikki Deloche who might come in and who might join us.
I think she will.
I think she's behind. I think she's literally just like there's an invisible wall, but we've got her nearby. So what do? Do we just talk about our book?
Yeah, we just talk about her book.
Do we just?
Someone just said you look handsome.
Thanks. I wore a leather jacket for everybody tonight. I figured I would dress up. It's the first time I've ever done this. I told her I was nervous, and she's like, "Why?" It's like you know. She's like, "Why?" I was like, "I've never done this before. I don't know. I'm nervous."
So let's talk
have,
about what we did today. It's our release day.
Okay. What did
I worked. What'd you do?
You worked. I did an interview for KTLA this morning, which is the local Los Angeles news, and talked about the book and talked about some stuff coming up, and then I was just so excited. Hey, there she is.
Hi.
Hi, Nikki.
You're back.
Did it happen?
You're in, and we're live.
Oh my God. Oh, you guys, I'm sweating. I'm literally sweating because I was like, this would be the most embarrassing thing of my career. Hi, guys.
How are you?
You wrote a book.
We wrote a book.
You guys, they wrote a book called Moments Like This. Anna Gomez, Kristoffer Polaha. This is so special for me to be a part of this because for those of you who have tuned in, Chris and I met in 2004, actually, on a pilot called North Shore, which took place in Hawaii. My name's Nikki Deloche, by the way. And so this was like going down memory lane in Hawaii, and we ended up spending an entire year together in Hawaii on this show. I would first like to say, Anna and Chris, how are you guys feeling today? It's your book release day. How are you feeling?
Great.
Pretty good. It feels like a holiday. Like all day today felt just kind of, like the pre-Christmas day. We're just tingly and special.
Tingling special?
Yeah. Tingly and special.
I worked, so. But I was keeping up with social media, so it was great.
As one does. That's so cool. Can I ask, how did this happen? How did you meet? How did it come together that the two of you were going to write a book together?
First.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so the long story is that, Nikki, you know me. You remember that time on set when I came up to you and I said I was in a boy band and I wrote literally a song in the moment, and I was like, I named it 5 for 11. And you were like, what band was it? And I was like, 5 for 11. You're like, I've never heard. I was like, we were really small, and I even had like movements. So I've always been somebody who's trying to create just different ways to tell stories. I love storytelling, and being a television actor has been such a gift because you get this idea of long form storytelling. So you make a pilot, people love it. You get to make another show and you get to tell another story. And every episode becomes this longer and longer, like a novel. and I've always sort of been a short story writer, and I write my little haikus on Twitter. A lot of people here have seen and followed those last year. And I don't know, it wasn't like too far. Like I'd always had this sort of fun idea of like, well, wouldn't it be fun to collaborate with somebody, especially in the Hallmark realm, because the Hallmark audience is really incredible. But it was also a far-fetched idea. But it was an interesting idea because it was sort of like God planted that the seed in my head. That was probably like in November when I looked at I was grocery shopping and I looked at some of novels in the grocery store, and I was like, man, like that. It just seems like there's a world in which like there might be some I don't know. It just felt tangible. We'll cut to May. We discovered it was May, right? Anna, is that when we met? In
May. Yeah.
Okay, so the pandemic is in full force. School hasn't resumed yet. Everyone's terrified. The world was shut down. Everything was on hold. And we were trying to find a sense of normalcy at home with the family. And every day I would go out to this green space next to our house and play football with my kids. And Anna, you and I have a friend in common, a guy named Javier. And Javier was just playing matchmaker one day. And he said, I have a friend. She's written 6 books. They're women's lit, they're romance novels. And I didn't know what that meant. A part of me was, when I got your first book, I started reading one of your books, and I think I was in like page, I don't know, it was the first like 15 pages of it, and I honestly was I was like, is this about to get nasty? Like, is this about to get like, am I about to like, what have I just signed up for? Yeah, but it wasn't. It was this really deep, beautiful literature. And I was like, you know what? This would be a lot of fun to be a part of this thing. And so you and I had a Zoom call, and it went really, really well. And in that Zoom call, you invited me to take this journey with you. And I said yes instantly. And then I was like, well, are you sure? And then I was like, I'll do it. And then you said, you're like, yeah, let me think about it. And then that was a Friday. On Monday, we confirmed it. On Wednesday, we had contracts signed. And then away we went. I mean, by June, we blazed through how many chapters did we write in those 15 days together? There was a moment where it was like a fever dream. And we just.
Yeah, it was a lot. I don't know. It was more than 30 per minute, 20 or 30 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things where. And it's been a really cool process. I think when you think about co-authoring with somebody, how was it for you co-authoring? Because you've written 6 books all on your own.
Okay, so first of all, I need to say this. I only have 3 like romantic scenes in every book, and I think butterflies that are on this call can attest to that. So, and I don't have romantic scenes on page 15. Takes a while.
Well, it was the beach. They were on the beach. They didn't remember they met on the beach, and there was
yeah, but that wasn't
early.
So anyway, I think it was different for me. You know, when we agreed to collaborate and write a book together, I just felt like it was it was new to me. I was gonna take you along with me, and you were gonna take me along with you from your end. And it was going to be a learning experience for both of us. So I thought that was exciting. You know, I'm always up for learning and a challenge in everything that I do. So I thought it was just really interesting. And again, as I said, when we first met, you were like so open and transparent. Like you were just telling me exactly how it is and what we need to do and how it goes and what happens and what doesn't, how a pitch is so difficult and we have to be there when we pitch and blah, blah, all these new things. And I just found that so exciting and interesting. In fact, I went on my page after we talked and I said, I think I'm going to get into this project. It's really interesting for me. It's something really new to me. And it's been like that ever since. Ever since we started writing together, there's a lot of first times. First time to do this, first time to do that, with quotes. Oh, is Nikki saying? Nikki?
I'm here.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that the collaboration was something that was just a plus for both of us. You say it is for you, it was for me as well. So anyway, so to continue the story, we signed contracts in a few days and you went to the UK. and
Yeah.
you quarantined for filming Jurassic World, and just started writing. I remember you wrote like 8 chapters in like 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I had this really weird experience. We were filming at the Langley, and we had to do quarantine. So we were isolated and we were in this bubble for filming Jurassic World 3. And I had to just show up in the UK, and they wouldn't touch my suitcase. They sprayed it with this mist. No one would see me for the first 2 weeks while I was there. I mean, I was living in lockdown in case I had COVID, and they didn't want me to contaminate anybody. So when they brought food to my room, I would have to order food, and they would ring the doorbell, and then somebody would go, 6 meters away from me. I'd grab the tray and I'd just sneak back into my room. And the television, all of that stuff, like my clock was off. Like, you remember, I think our biggest challenge was finding the time difference to call each other, because you're a professional and you have a real life job. Not that acting isn't a real life job, but you have like you have to be somewhere at a certain time. And
yeah. And I was always on schedule. And
you're like the most.
You were so messed up with the time. Remember, you were like, "What time is it?"
Yeah, I was like, "What,
Wednesday?"
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know what day it is. And you're like, "Come on, buddy." You're like, "Come on, kiddo. We got it. We got to go. We got it." But we had this thing where, when you're acting, I think I can talk about it in terms of acting. You either trust the person that you're acting with, because it is 100% a collaboration, and you're on set or a stage, and you're very vulnerable because you're pretending to be somebody else. You're saying somebody else's lines, and if you're not 100% in that moment and make believing and being really authentic in that false moment, you feel foolish and you will fall, and everyone's going to look at you and go like, "You're not good and this is bad," and you won't work again. And I think with creating this story, I had to immediately trust you, and you had to immediately trust me, and we really did. Like, it was an unusual pairing.
Yeah.
Where talk about, like, we were random strangers. We were connected by a guy named Javier, who both of us you knew him better than I did, and being somebody who, like, anybody could have. I mean, you could have been anybody. And I had just had I had the weirdest experience a year before I met you with the con artist who was pretending to be somebody else on a phone
No
call.
way.
Yeah,
Really?
super crazy thing, and offered me this huge Warner Brothers movie. And I had already gone down a very weird road with strangers. And so I had already been like, I'm not going to trust anybody. Why? So when I saw you on Zoom and we had that conversation and I was able to bona fide who you were on, obviously I went on and looked up your books, and I was like, well, so for me, the whole opportunity has just been too good to be true. And then the fact that we have a literal book that we can hold in our hands, that's, I mean, it's just a really rewarding thing going on.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy for you, because I think it felt really am I echoing?
No, try it again.
I'm really happy for you, but I think the moment that it really hit you was when you held the book in your hands.
Yeah. When I got a box of books that showed up at my house.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, just holding it physically, and knowing that it's yours.
Yeah. How was it for you? Like, how has this process been sharing? I mean, I don't mean the writing of it, but like, how about all of this stuff that, like, when they do a review, and in the past, like, it was all you. And has it been weird sharing the spotlight and sharing? I mean, has it been weird, like, sharing it?
Not really.
You haven't minded it?
I came into this knowing that we were 50-50 on everything. That's just the way I've looked at it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are curious about you. I mean, they want to know about you. They want to know how you write and how we interact, and how we work together. And I'm just, always very just positive about the experience. And
like, he's a little slow.
No, not really. I mean, you know what it is too is I posted this the other, like, months ago, I think, and I said it's half the work, man.
It's half the work.
It's half the work.
Yeah.
You know, and even if one day, you know, we found it where, oh hi, you're back.
Nikki's back. This is like a surprise. Honestly, it's almost the best way to moderate because it's a surprise to show up, and we're like, "Hey, Nikki's back."
Guys, by the way, I planned all of this. I've been hearing everything. I'm just keeping everyone on their toes.
We're like,
Um,
Nikki. Look how dramatic Anna's background got to tone in with the theme.
I know Anna's
Dark.
background was perfect.
Sunrise to sunset.
Mine is an RV in the middle. We're parked in the middle of Mississippi somewhere. That's, by the way, I love the story of how this came together because it feels like so seamless and so meant to be. And like sometimes things are just easy, and when they're easy, you know that it's meant to be. And your story of how it came together and how you worked together and how seamless it was, it reads like the book reads. So I do have a question in terms of like how you did this. So Chris, you would write chapters. Would you send them to Anna and Anna would read them? Would she note, then send them back? Like, how did it work?
How did it work, Anna?
Well, I had written a few chapters already before we got together, and then I was stuck, which is why I'm so glad he came into the picture. So I was stuck. So I stopped writing for a month or so after, you know, before we met. So when he came into the picture, it was right where Andie and Warren had met, and then I was stuck.
Right.
So then I started ordering books on Oahu and I wanted to read up on Oahu. You know, I've been there with the family a few times, but like, you know, I wanted it to be very vivid, but I didn't want it to sound like a travel book. Like, was the worst thing was for it to sound like like a travel guide. I wanted it to be a story,
Right.
and I wanted the backdrop to be Hawaii, you know. And then here's where Chris came in. So when he was flying, by the time he had flown to the UK and I had sent him the first few chapters, it was time for them to fall in love. And Chris had come up with the idea of the Moments tours. So all the stuff in Hawaii, all the description, you know, I didn't know there was such a thing as running rocks. I didn't know, you know, that was all him. So
by the way, we've both done this.
Yeah, I know. How crazy is it that Brian Kaelan is in a book? I'm going to send him a copy. He's going to be like, what, man? My dad didn't surf with Greg Knoll. I'll be like, yeah, he did now.
He does now. He does in my book. But by the way, like part of the whole thing with Brian, I will say, and this was something that was so beautiful about it and so beautiful about Hawaii, is the fact that like when I first surfed, when I was learning to surf with Brian, he sat me down on the beach, and we see Warren do this a little bit because he's trying to, you know, with the kids, he's like, well, you're going to go out in the water later. But Brian sat me down and he said, we got to learn about the water. You don't just go in the water to surf. I want you to know what the water means to my culture and what it means. So he sat me down and talked to me about how important the water is to their culture and how spiritual it is and how they are connected to it. And it was such a different way to enter into anything, to actually sit and contemplate on what you're doing and why you're doing it, which takes me to the themes of your book, right? With Andie and with Warren. What are you doing and why are you doing it? A lot of the book is about getting still and being still enough to actually listen, because what I've learned in my life is once you're forced to get still and everybody's trying to outrun the stillness, outrun the presence, where all the magic and the miracles lie, right? But we're all trying to outrun it because we think that there's something really scary there. But instead, and what Hawaii does and why it is so magical, is there's so much beauty all around, you can't help but be present. And so these two characters are brought to this place to be present and to be still. Hawaii casts the spell. Andie is forced to listen. And once you listen to the knowing, you can't unknow what you now know, right? Which is she's got a lot to figure out, and the life that she was once living is no longer a life that she wants to live anymore. So how did you come upon these themes? Like, did you sit down and say, I want to talk about stillness, I want to talk about presence, I want to talk about self-worth, not being dependent on externals, which Andie has to learn? Like, how did you come up with all of these themes? Because I love it, and I think it speaks so deeply to what so many of us are going through right now.
Is that for me?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think when we were building the characters, there's a lot in those characters that are us. So, for example, Andie, the lesson that she's learning is a lesson that Chris has learned, or I have learned specifically. I have learned in my life, where I've spent so many years building a career and never slowed down. It's just the kids, the career, earning money, being able to do everything, and then being competitive and competing every day, competing.
Yeah.
And then things happen in your life that kind of say, okay, you gotta stop. You gotta slow down, and you have to take care of yourself. Chris, you don't know this, but in 2018, I went to Paris for 3 weeks, and I came home and I couldn't move my jaw. And I couldn't move my jaw, and I had a high fever, and I went and checked myself in the hospital, and I didn't come out for 2 weeks. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And then they thought I had cancer. So I was in the cancer floor. I had a bone marrow biopsy. My kids were just like she just went to Paris and came home, and now she's got cancer. Like, what is happening here? And life just slowed down. Like, it's a point where you just keep going. And up to now, they don't know what was wrong with me, which is why don't get mad. But I promise to go to Mayo Clinic after everything is settled. I still know, they still don't know what's wrong with me. They still don't know what happened to me. My blood count was negative, and I, through prayer and, just faith and everything like that, I woke up one day 2 weeks later, and my blood count was normal. My pain was gone. And, and I,
stress.
Yeah, it's stress. And just, and those things like Andie, just those things, the parallels in her life and the quiet that she needed to find, And then, so we started that out, and then Chris just keeps it over.
Agree.
Pardon?
I said, I totally agree. I mean, I think sometimes when we ignore the signs over and over and over again, then God will deliver a big sign. And sometimes that means some type of health thing that we have to deal with. My head went through a wall, and I ended up with a concussion and couldn't do anything for 2 months. And everyone in my life had been saying, you've got to slow down, you've got to slow down, you've got to slow down. And in the midst of trying to work and take care of 2 kids, I slipped on a magnetile and my head went through the wall. And I was like, when I finally came to, the first thought I had was, all right, God, got it. I got it. It's time to slow down. So I think that stress, and the lives that we're living in the busyness of it manifests itself in our body. And if we don't take the time to reset our neurological system, we end up sick. And that's what happened to Andie.
Yeah, that's so.
And I love that you. Yeah. I love that you use that personal experience for it to be an inciting incident in this book to take us on this journey with her. So Chris, so Anna was saying that that's when you came in, when it was time to create the circumstances for Andie and Warren.
Yeah.
So take us through that, of how you came up with how they fall in love and what is going to happen.
Well, I think what was cool is that because we didn't have a specific game plan, there was no color by numbers or connected dots. It was just we knew that we were going to bring them together in the coffee shop, because that was the story that Anna had set up. And to Anna's credit, she had created literally Andie's world And all of a sudden, there's the entire construct of her being, where we start the book, why she gets into Hawaii. And I think it's very fair to say that all of this was done under sort of the matrix of, if there's such a huge audience for the Hallmark films and people want friendly entertainment, whether that's literature or movies or whatever, then why don't we write some stories that are sort of geared towards that audience? And so knowing that, I think that was another reason why Anna and I were such a good match, because I had done so many Hallmark movies that I kind of do that formula pretty well and was able to, bring an audience with me. And so I knew that we were going to make these two fall in love. And what I loved about it was the thing that we don't get to see on television often in these movies that everyone loves so much is that depth of humanity, where all of a sudden it just goes and it drops into soul. And I think where we were able to just come in as writers and have a lot of fun was, what if we take two people who are really broken and who do want love and who do want the happy ending, but they're so broken that they have to strip back real layers and true, honest, like, work has to be done. And we came up with this really fun thing. And I got to be honest with you, Nikki, the cool thing about it was, like, Anna would write a chapter and then I would read that chapter and I'd be like, what if on the surfboard they, like, make a deal? And she's like, well, what do you mean make a deal? And I'm like, what if they make a deal? Like, what if they just don't tell each other their past? And so then we don't have to worry about, like, who Andie was or who Warren was. And then we get to have these, like, superheroes come in, be mysterious to each other. We can create a moment, and which, by the way, and I think in full disclosure, remember when I joined on board, there was a cover and there was a title. And I was like, do we have to use this cover? And what about this title? Like, moments like, what is it? Is it these or this? And then I got it and I loved it because it's truly been, like, I signed a book the other day and I was like, we've had some cool moments, and from the author and your friend. And it was one of those ideas of, like, moments like this, like, life is made up of these little tiny moments. And then it just started clicking and we started just playing with this idea of, and then all the while, Anna had, she had the coffee shop business to tend to. So I think that's where her CFOing comes in, and that's where her natural propensity to make lists and to do deep dives on research. So, like, when I got that chapter about the coffee plantation, I was like, holy cow, you did your work. And so I think we both used our giftings to sort of literally bring these people together. And it was like being, on set with somebody when you're making a movie and you have that chemistry and you have that natural connection. And we had that as writers. Like, I would be like, hey, what about this? And she's like, oh, it's wonderful. And I would send her a chapter and then I would just, like, wait for her to read it and respond. I'd be like, well, what did you think? And then all of a sudden she'd be, I love it. I'm like, yeah, we're good. And then she would send me stuff and I would give her encouragement. And it was just a fun way to tell a story. It was a really
The one thing he didn't know was that I would be inserting, like, Filipino culture in there and Filipino food. So when I was writing that, I'm like, I wonder what he's going to say with this. I sent it over and he didn't say anything. So I'm like, oh, I guess he's cool with all that stuff that I'm putting in there.
I did have to comment on the names at a certain point. I was like, we need a couple Hawaiian names because there's a lot.
He was naming everyone. We were changing names and it was fun. It was really a fun thing.
Spanish, the Filipino culture is, like, heavily Spanish influence. And so we had the Flores and I was like, I think we need a couple of, like, Hawaiian.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Chris, I know that you love collaboration and you're so used to collaboration, but Anna, pardon my ignorance on this. Is this the first time that you've written a book with someone else?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is.
Is this going to be the last time you write a book with someone else?
Great question.
He's the only one I'm going to agree to write a book with. Again, when I agreed to do this, I was really not intending to write something that has just taken its own life. I mean, it's just taken its own life. Like, if he got too busy and he, like, quit on me, like, I'd have to keep going because the characters are just so alive now. Like, we have to finish it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I felt like when I was reading it. I got in, like, once I was, like, I got in it, it was so easy to get into this world because Hawaii, everyone, like, the magic of Hawaii. You say something, you have a quote in here, which, in my opinion, I was like, she nailed what it is to be in Hawaii. you say, or maybe it was Chris. I don't know. That's the thing. That was so fun about reading this. I was like, wait, which did what? You say about Hawaii, it woke me up and soothed me at the same time.
We're both
I mean,
Like who wrote that?
like that.
Yeah.
It woke me up and it soothed me at the same time. So when I talk as a woman about my knowing, and when I encourage women to listen to your knowing, that is what it feels like. It wakes you up and it soothes you at the same time. You feel this tingling of, awakeness that you've never felt, and expansion at the same time. But yet you feel calm and you feel peaceful. And I can't help but think that, Hawaii and Andie's parallel journey, because she was in this place, she allowed herself to be woken. She allowed herself to be soothed by this character of Warren. Now, my question is, because I happen to think that like it's easy to do that in beautiful places, right? How do we do that when we're not in Hawaii? Anna and Chris.
When we're not loaded to the gills with, I think that the joy of the book, forgive me, Anna, for jumping in on this one, but
No, go ahead.
I think that like one of the concepts is that it's called moments like this. And if you can take enough time, and I think all of us who've been gifted enough to fall in love and to have a partner, if it's for a time in your life or for a long time, like we have that initial falling in love. And it's moments. It's literally these moments that keep sparking another moment. And when you're lucky, the moments just keep coming. And then you build up enough of the good ones so that when the bad ones start coming, enough in the bank to say, I'm good with this person because they've been through all of this stuff with me, and now I need them to like be patient with me, or I need them to, so I'm willing to pick up, if my example is Julianne, like she's got so much credit in the bank that if she wanted to just burn the whole thing down, I'd be like, babe, I'm here for you. What do you need? Like, let's figure this out. Because there's this reciprocal moments and moments and moments and moments. And I think that's where the joy of discovering, Andie and Warren's relationship was really like these little, and I love the fact that it wasn't sexual. Like, I love the fact that we were able to go to an emotional place, because it's so easy to be, they lust after each other, of course.
Yeah.
Who doesn't lust? Like that happens, and then you do your thing and then you're done. But when you love somebody, you push through the lust, and then you're getting into the ugliness, and you're like, wow, she also goes to the bathroom twice a day. Like whatever it is that's not very attractive, you love that person through that too.
Oh.
It's like, and I think that's where we had fun with the book, was we started playing in those moments and like having really sweet, tender, and it moves, man. Like when you get this book,
it does.
That it just through. I've gotten on Instagram and Twitter today, and people have already read it. They got it today, and they made March 9th was Moments Like This Day, and they just read the whole thing. I mean, it's amazing.
Guys, I read the whole thing in 3 days, and I have 2 children and I work, if that tells you anything. And I'm trying to be really careful because I don't want to spoil any of this for the people who are on here, because like there's literal passages that I want to actually read from this book, like the end. Oh my goodness. I was like, what? I mean, at the end, when Lily wraps back around, it's not a spoiler alert because you'll read everything and you'll get to that place, people. I just thought that was such a beautiful full circle moment. I also love how I feel like Andie's journey of awakening and sinking into herself was so purposeful that you went through like all of the different, she went through the denial. Like, I'm just going to focus on work. And then she went to the I'm gonna fake it till I make it, when her friend calls her out and is like, yeah, you're just playing in this world for 2 weeks, and then you're gonna go back to your life, and everything's gonna fall away. Was that very specific? Like, did you think, like, I have to take her through these certain moments till she can sink deep enough into herself to make this leap of faith?
Yes. The trap that you fall in when you're writing a romance book is this insta love kind of thing, and the change, the catharsis that's like immediate. And that was the one thing we didn't want to do in this book. We wanted to show both flaws and the things that were keeping these two people from actually totally like just giving in. And it was a long process, and it was a long process. And I think we wanted to show that, and have both of them come full circle on their own before they could get back together.
Which is an interesting theme for us, because we have book 2 already in the works, and I think we go on a deeper.
Really?
Yeah.
We're almost done.
We're almost done with book 2. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wait, different characters?
Yeah. Who do you think? Who? I want to know. We need to have like a big poll.
Yeah.
Like when it's about to come out, to find out, like to imagine who we before the teaser comes out, because that'll spoil it. But who do you think we follow in the next book, Nikki?
Well, it breaks my heart a little bit to think that it might not be Andie, because I just want to know, like, what happens to her and Warren. I want to know what their wedding's gonna be like. But if I was to make a guess, maybe it would be one of the characters from the coffee shop. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Is it Melee?
We can't say anything, but Chris, why don't we explain that the books are all related, but they're standalone?
Okay. I think that we've introduced the entire universe. And so there are people that you're going to meet in book 1 that we will then go and sort of hyper focus on. So book 2, we just go, and all of a sudden, and there's still a world existing. And so we're still going to see, but unlike most series where we would follow Andie and Warren through 5 books, we're just going to take you on this really cool, and so you've met everybody, and there's literally 5 books, and we have it all mapped out, and we're like halfway through book 2. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And in the end, we tie it all together.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
In book 5, we tie it all together.
Yeah.
I love this idea, because you don't lose anyone. There's still pieces of the world. You just change, you just shift the focus and you open up somebody else's world. That's so exciting.
But, one of the things that I think being an actor came in, the advantage of being an actor, was that as we were writing this, as we were breaking the story down, as we were pitching ideas to each other, and we were kind of spitballing, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? I was thinking, well, how are we going to tell this story on film? Because obviously the objective, like the main objective at the end of the day, is to turn these books into movies, and it would be really fun. And so we had this idea of like a trilogy and these 2 standalone films within the 5. And so we have all of that. And I was like, so this whole, like the same idea as the Marvel universe. Like you see Iron Man show up, but then Spider-Man pokes in, and then all of a sudden we watch Spider-Man movie. And so it's the same concept with it's a family saga, and it's going to just kind of, you're just going to travel through the islands, watching people fall in love.
I am so excited to know that. That is a really, really, really cool idea. I hope one of them is about Adam, because bless his heart. We gotta see him like get it together at some point. Sweet Adam.
Who else you want to see, Nikki? Who else do you want to see? I'm curious how many.
I'll send you my email.
Yeah.
I'll send you my email with my request.
I love that. I love that.
I love that you really got into the book. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Oh, of
Great.
course. honestly, like, I wanna ask one more question before we go to questions, because I know people have questions. But I will say I dove soul deep inside of it, and it's not just because I love Chris and I'm so proud of him and I'm so happy for him, and he is a beautiful storyteller, and I can attest that the thing that, like, besides the fact that we laugh a lot when we're together, the thing I think that connects us so deeply is that we are both such creative beings, and we're always looking for the story, like the heart of any story, and whether that's on screen or in life with people and connections that we make. And I love that about you. And I felt that so deeply in this really sweet, precious book. My question, I guess, to wrap this up before we move to questions, is what was your favorite part of making this book? Anna, we'll start with you. What made this one extra special?
This book, I gained a friend.
Yeah.
It just, yeah. We started out as partners and collaborators, but I knew we'd be friends. I mean, we would chit chat. We would have our weekly Zoom meetings, and half the Zoom meeting would be about the kids and about life, and then half would be, oh, hey, wait, what about the book?
Yeah.
So I think in every journey I take in life, I think what's most important to me is the relationships that I build or don't build. You know, it can go. It's not a guarantee that you would get along. You know, it's a risk and
Yeah.
risk,
Yeah.
and it was worth it, and it's so fun. It's fun. It's just fun. It's fun. The best part about it is the fun of doing this, and the courage, and I think the courage I've gained into just being vulnerable with my words and ideas and work, and having somebody say it's good, it's bad, let's change it. He never said it's bad. He never says that. But he, we'll change it. We'll work together on it. So
I will say, is there a world in which
yeah, like
Or the one I always like to use. I always like to use. Oh, you know what else would be really fun?
yeah,
What this?
oh, that's where he got it.
you know what else would be really cool if we did instead of this? I said this the other day on the Polaha Chautauqua. I said that working with Anna and working on this book, specifically during the pandemic, specifically during a time that was full of fear and chaos for a lot of people, and I mean, to I guess put a finer point on it, death was very prevalent this last year, and there were a lot of people who were constantly facing death or fearing their own death. And working with Anna, we had this, and I see things in color, I hear music in color, and there was this bright yellow stream that was underlying everything else. So even when I was on Jurassic, even when I was home with the kids, working on moments like this, there was this bright yellow just line of energy that was underneath all of it. And it really did. It was a support or a foundation of the entire year last year. So having that collaborative process with you, Anna, was really, it gave me something to, I mean, what a gift to be able to, instead of be afraid about the world shutting down, we built life. Like we collaborated and told a story that is about love and is about people finding joy and forgiveness. And I don't know, like it was just a really amazing cathartic thing. And ironically, in a year where we couldn't travel, we wrote about going to like this really amazing, beautiful place and giving people this escape where we're like, go and fall in love and go to Hawaii and take a break for a minute. I mean, also like the book itself. I mean, it's weird to talk about the actual design of it, but that was like 3 weeks worth of phone calls and Zoom meetings where we really broke down the cover, and it was a cost. It was a great cost to Anna personally, specifically. She hired somebody, and she said, if you're not happy with this cover, which had already been paid for and done, we already had a cover. And there was something that we were both we bumped on it. And we just spent all this time making the book beautiful so that when you feel it and you hold it in your hand and it's just sitting on your bedside stand or your whatever, like it takes you away a little bit. And that was really specific. That was like something that we were like, let's create a thing.
And the spine is special.
If you
So
do,
if you stack them on top of each other, all 5 books, there'll be something on the spine that connects.
Oh, I love that. Well, I love that because you said a couple of things in there that I think are so true and beautiful. One of them being that we can never control an outcome of any experience. We can never control how somebody's going to receive anything that we do. But what we can control is how we are living inside the experience and how it changes us and what it does to us. So that was the first thing I heard, which I think is such a beautiful thing to share with everyone. And there's such power in that lesson. And I also, the thing that I've been talking to people a lot about in this last year, and the other thing that I heard you say is the power of imagination. And I feel as we get older, we tend to lose our muscle, our ability to close our eyes and actually transport ourselves to somewhere else, to build, especially in quarantine and inside of all of this, where so much has been taken in terms of how we lived our lives, to be able to use the power of the imagination to dream about where you will go, or to think about actually wrapping your body around your mom or your father who you can't see. We lose that muscle as we get older. And I think that in this last year, I've always used my imagination, but I've never used it as much as I have in this last year of my life. And I think that the more we can get in touch with that, and a lot of the times picking up a book and reading it helps to do that for us. It ignites a spark and we can imagine ourselves on that beach, or, at Hanauma Bay as they're going through all of that stuff, or like Wailea, like you can imagine yourself, and that is the power of story. So I know that there's some questions. Can you guys scroll and see them? I'm on my phone, so I can't see the questions. Pardon me if there are any.
Okay.
You got one, Anna?
I'm just going to go in order. The first one is it easier to overcome challenges with things like writer's block or decisions about characters with a writing partner?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called texting and asking.
Yeah, it's like, what is this? I'm like,
does he wear a New York hat?
Yeah, what was that you did the other day? You're like, New York Yankees or Mets? I was like, I guess you're going to be a Mets guy. And you're like, great. Those are awesome ones. It's been interesting because the last, like really since my birthday, which was like mid-February until about now, until today, there's been this really kind of weird window of time for me, and I haven't been able to write. And I've felt the pressure of not writing, and it was easy because Anna was still able to contribute and still able to keep going, which was wonderful for about 4 chapters. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. I need to catch up. But it was really fun because each chapter is like a writer's prompt. So she would send me something, I would be able to read it, and then I would take something from hers, and then I would do my chapter. Or in the beginning of the book, I had a couple. And then she was able to go, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And she was able to fill these things in. So I think it's much easier.
How do you know who's writing each chapter? Is it predetermined who will write each part?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think I think for the first book, we were just writing. We were just writing and throwing it over the wall.
Yeah.
Right? There wasn't even a story arc. I mean, for the second one, we're a little more organized with the arc, but the last time we were just exchanging ideas, I think.
Yeah.
Which sounds really weird now. It makes it feel like it was really like easier than it should have been.
It was a lot. I mean, honestly, like it's unusual how
weird
it was. It really feels like a God thing because it's like it happens so seamlessly.
Yeah.
And like those things in life that you're like, well, it was meant to be. Like we were meant to write
Yeah.
Everything in this story is meant for somebody to read in like a really life-giving way, in ways that you and I we can't even begin to understand it. And I don't mean to make it sound hyperbolic or, you know, bigger than it is, but it was so weird how this happened. Like it's so impossible to get anything done in life. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why
So,
in the beginning, when I was like, it sounds like the story sounds like there's this sense of like ease, just meant to be-ness about the whole entire thing, which I think is so cool. It's a creative soulmate situation. We meet these people throughout our lives where something just like clicks and you can't describe it. Chris, you and I are that way. We're like, we kind of just like, we may go a minute and not see each other, and then we're like right back in the second we are around each other. When that happens, pay attention, because there is a meant to be-ness. And I've always said, like, even with my life with Chris, God definitely wants us to be in each other's lives because he keeps like bringing us. But I think that's probably true for the two of you in this book as well. Yeah, and then are there any other questions? That was a good question.
there's one that said, how much research did you do for the book?
Well, I lived in Hawaii, so the research was life experience. And then you did a lot of research, Anna, on coffee.
I've never seen a coffee plant before, so I researched that, and that was so cool. You know, how to find out about Kona snow and how they bloomed and all that stuff. So that
which is one of my favorite scenes in the whole book.
Yeah.
When Andie, I would just say Andie Warren in the Kona snow, like, and that, I mean, we made a pact early on that we weren't going to say like who wrote what, like we were just going to keep it all a big secret. But I can certainly say that I enjoyed that chapter.
You know what though?
I read it.
It was written. It would be such a good thing on film. Just that scene.
So beautiful.
Let's see. Is it difficult to balance family life with writing once the characters start swirling around in your head, demanding to be heard?
It just, I mean, I'll answer real quick. For me, I have 3 sons and my wife, and I'm a very, I make a point of being present at home. Is, you know, I mean, that might be arguable if I'm on my phone too much. Guilty. But I made time for, like I make time for it early in the mornings, and the thoughts hit in the shower, and all of a sudden, and I'll literally get on my notes and I'll just jam a chapter in my notes, and then I'll transcribe it at another time. You know what I mean? So finding time to do it has been interesting for me. How about you, Anna?
Same. I mean, as soon as they hit my brain, I just write it down.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's really dangerous because sometimes I'm like approving something at work and I'll be like approved. So no, it's I think the main thing is really writing down as it comes, because if you forget it, it goes away after a while. The next thing you know, you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, it's true. By the way, Nikki, when she says approved at work, it's for like $100 million like commercial contract. She's like, yeah, go do that. Go make that thing for $1 million.
So as the series goes on, will the book stay in the Hallmark lane? That's a good question.
You know what? It's funny that you asked that, because we were itching to write book 4 more for adults, and seeing the response already on book 1, I feel like we have a responsibility to kind of keep it within a world. I mean, that's my instinct, and we haven't talked about this yet, but I would think that it's probably smarter for us to keep it in the lane that it's in currently. And then
which is not 100% Hallmark.
Yeah, it's not. It really, yeah. I mean, my aunt today, she goes, is this something I'm going to like, or is it going to be raunchy? And I'm like, you know, you 6 of it were raunchy, Aunt Mary. It's fine.
Let's see. Samantha says, not really a question, more like a statement. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank Chris and Anna for bringing this amazing book and characters.
Sam, we appreciate you. She had yesterday.
She finished it. Yeah.
Amazing. She lives in Australia.
Uh,
And I just want to thank, I mean, the butterflies. I want to thank everybody in my community on the Chautauqua, these people who have come into our lives this year. And I know, Nikki, that you have a huge group of people that love and follow you. And it's funny because we're creating something without you guys. It's a full dimensional relationship. Because Anna and I could have written a book, and if no one reads it, then it's fun for Anna and I. But when we get to share what we create, and when we have people like you guys who are watching this right now and have been, following and doing stuff, who are just so passionate and so vocal and so fervent in your appreciation for the things we're doing, it's a miracle, guys, and we're so grateful for you. So thank you out there who are watching and who are chiming in and who are reading. It's just awesome. I'm so humbled.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be here without you, number one. Number two, you're our inspiration. Everybody on this chat that we know in our groups have inspired us to write this story.
It's true. And Barbara's books, thank you for hosting us tonight.
Yes.
I was going to say Barbara's book.
I mean, it's a cool Chicago. I mean, if you're going to buy a book, go online and get it from Barbara's bookstore, right? Because it's a cool private, it's a family thing in Chicago.
Yeah. It's a great bookstore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, was it kind of one of your dreams? Wasn't it one of your dreams to have a book in Barbara's bookstore?
Yes. So Barbara's bookstores, they're big bookstores in Chicago, but they're in every airport. And every time I'd go to the American Airlines lounge, it's right next to it. And so I would go through the books and I would call Italia and go, I want my books in this bookstore.
Like, how do we get here?
So I told her that.
How do I talk to Barbara?
Yeah. Call Barbara. It's going to be a great airport book.
Oh, it's going to be a perfect airport book. And I wanted to just, I wanted to read a little small thing on our way out. And there's so many parts, but I was like, oh, I can't read all of that. It gives too much away. But there was just a moment that Andie has when she has gotten still for the first time. She's gotten still for the first time and she's starting to listen. She's starting to listen to her knowing. And she does this thing, which I think is really telling when you get really present. So she's working and she's dreaming and she's trying to think about what to do for the coffee plantation. And then she says, I paused for a minute to witness the sunrise over Waikiki Beach. As the orange sun spread its rays over the island, the warm breeze wrapped me in its embrace, assuring me everything happened for a reason. With outstretched arms, I breathed in the kaleidoscope of colors that reflected the sky, the sun, the sea. For the first time, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to live my life in color. It's one of my favorite paragraphs because I think it is exactly what this book does. It reminds us to take a moment, look around, pause, and it reminds us of what we want, and it reminds us to live in color. And so thank you guys for bringing us a book that reminds us to live in color, that inspires us to do so. And another thing that you say in there is life is a prison. We are each other's freedom. Do not be afraid. So I would say, like Andie and Warren, let us not be afraid to take leaps of faith and to strip down and to sink deeper and to fall in love and actually go for the life that we want, or the life that we need, not necessarily the life that we think we want. Thank you guys so much for this. I can't wait to read the second one. I'm so excited.
Chris will send you an advance copy.
I will. I'll give you it as soon as we're ready for it. That was really beautiful, Nikki. Thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight, taking time out of your family. I know that you're on the road in an RV, like making your way to your daddy. So thank you for doing this for us, because this is a huge deal, and it was nice to have you on this little bit of a big day. It's a big fun day.
It's moments like this. Chris and I were texting because I am going to see my dad, who's going through, we're going through a lot with him right now. And he said, listen, as your friend, it's okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's moments like this. It's your book release. I'm so honored to be asked to be a part of this. Like, it makes me want to cry.
I'm gonna cry.
It's so true. But I'm so sorry about my like getting on in the technology in the beginning, you guys. It was my fault that we were a little late, but you don't want to miss moments like this. And when your friends ask you to show up for things that matter, you show up. And it's a privilege to be able to do so. So thank you so much for having me. It has just been an honor to be able to be a part of this. I'm so happy for you both. And huge congrats on the book. And good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for everything. It's been great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. Thank you, Barbara's Books.
Thanks for having us. We'll be back next year.
And then I think we